I can't believe that it was December 2021 that I first took a look at Cwicly when it was over on AppSumo, and I grabbed myself a couple of licenses. I had a couple of comments to say about how it all worked, but I was excited to see where it was going. Today, 6 or 7 months later, we're going to go back and take a look at how much has actually changed inside Cwicly. Now, if you're new to this and you don't know what it is, basically consider this to be something like Oxygen, but for Gutenberg. It gives you pretty much the amount of power that you have in a tool like Oxygen, but inside the Gutenberg editor. If that's got you interested, let's take a look at what's changed and how you may want to take a look at this for yourself. But before I do, if you decide you want to grab yourself a license or multiple licenses for Cwicly, check out the link in the description below and the information, because there's an exclusive 20% discount to WPTuts users if you want to grab it using that link or just using the code. So save yourself 20% if you want to grab a copy or more. So Cwicly, as I've already said, is pretty much a powerhouse when it comes to working with Gutenberg. It gives you pretty much all the kind of controls you want from a page builder inside the Gutenberg editor, so you get the benefit of working with blocks and so on. So check out Cwicly.com if you want to take a look at a little bit more, but let's take a look at how things are working right now, and let me go over some of the things that I think are really exciting about this particular platform. So once you go ahead and install Cwicly, you're going to have a new entry inside your dashboard. Inside there, currently, there are two settings. You've got Thema and you've got Settings. Let's quickly jump into the settings and take a look at what's in there, because it's pretty bare bones, in all honesty. That's the way I kind of like it. As you can see, we can go ahead and we can add our own custom icon collections, or we can use and pick any of the icon collections that are pre-installed. You've also got the ability to input your own font sets, so you can upload WOFF2 font formats, and therefore you bypass the need to use Google Fonts, which is always a good thing. You've got your Google Maps API, any custom code you want to insert. So again, you can do away with another plugin like code snippets or any of those kinds of tools. You can do that directly inside Cwicly itself. And you've also got some advanced settings in which you can kind of tweak things to optimize how your WordPress and Cwicly actually works with each other. And finally, you've got the options then to regenerate your HTML and your CSS should you find you have a problem. Next up, you've got the Thema, and this is one of the first things that I think is worth taking a look at. Because we're working inside Gutenberg, Cwicly kind of has its own way of creating template files, but it also works in a very similar fashion to full site editing. So you can see you've got the option to create your overall template pages, so your index page, but you can also do template parts like headers and footers and all those kinds of things. Now, this is already pretty powerful, but what I really like about Cwicly, and this is something that's kind of a thread running through a lot of what you see inside Cwicly, is there are a lot of really powerful features added in. If we open up the visibility conditions, you can see we've got a very robust way of creating custom visibility conditions for where and when templates or template parts will actually be used. You can see we can choose to do things like show if or don't show, so show and hide. Then you can go ahead and you can choose how you want to check this. So you can see we want to show or hide this everywhere, or we can show it everywhere. We can go down to singular, archive, author, and so on. We can even come into ACF, which is integrated into Cwicly itself. So every time you install Cwicly, you also have Advanced Custom Fields Pro, that's the Pro version, so all the features that come with Pro installed alongside it and integrated directly into the Cwicly editor and platform. That in itself is kind of exciting. But you can see we can go ahead and we can reference things like cookies, dates, time, shortcodes, user IDs, capabilities, roles. So for example, if we say a user role, you'll see that then opens up even more options. So you've got operators for equals or doesn't equal. And then you can go ahead, you can select what role in this example, and we can go ahead and we can stack as many of these as we want on top of each other to get really granular in exactly where and when templates or template parts will be used throughout the entire site. And this visibility or conditional logic is evident in lots of different places throughout the entire Cwicly editor. So if you are looking for something that gives you real huge amounts of control on where and when to show things, this is all built directly into Cwicly itself. And again, you can see you've got the ability to add second, third, fourth, fifth conditions in. You can choose whether you want to use the operators of and then the exclude type for and or. You can set priorities inside here. This in itself is incredibly powerful. Let's go ahead and just close that down for now. You can see we can simply add custom templates, or we can add default templates. We can come into the template parts. So you can see when we go into the template parts, you can see there's all our different sections. And if we open up, for example, the header, you'll see this now opens up the Cwicly editor and we can see exactly how this is going to look. So let's come back out of this for now. You can see we can jump back and we can go back to our templates or our template parts again, or let's just go back to the dashboard itself. So that's taking a look at things like templates and parts. You've also got global parts inside here, so your global header, your global footer, and we can set the different things up inside here as well. So there's tons of options when you want to create your own custom layouts and custom designs and all those things. So the themer is already very, very powerful. Let's go ahead and open up a normal page. Let's go ahead and create a new file. So let's click on Add New. And this will then take us into the normal Gutenberg interface. However, you'll probably notice there are already a few things that look considerably different. And if you've seen my previous coverage of Cwicly, you may be surprised to see there's an awful lot has changed inside the interface. One of my criticisms when I checked this out back in December was I didn't like the interface too much. It felt a little bit too click happy and a little bit complex with lots of different panels and so on. They've streamlined that very recently and it is a much more page builder like experience. So for example, if we take a look on the left hand side, you can see we've got very common elements we can drop into our design, or blocks if you want to call them that. So things like your sections, your divs, your columns, your text headings, your paragraphs, buttons, images and icons. However, we can also come up to the plus and open that up, and then we've also got all the normal blocks inside here, including patterns and so on. And anyway you can see this little Cwicly symbol, this sort of back-to-back C, these are all the elements or widgets or block level elements, whatever you want to kind of call them. I keep calling them widgets, but blocks. And as you can see, you've got your normal candidates, your columns, your sections, your headings, and so on. You'll also notice that we have some more advanced features. We have things like fragments, query, repeaters. So if you're working with advanced custom fields, which like I say is already part of Cwicly, you'll see you can actually go ahead and create your own custom repeaters inside Cwicly itself. And this is one of those areas that when it comes to page builders, a lot of page builders, repeaters with dynamic data are not actually supported straight out of the box. Elementor, for example, does not have this feature. You have to use third-party tools. So for me, I love working with dynamic data. I love working with tools like advanced custom fields. So the ability to have these built into the actual core product itself is an exciting thing. However, on the flip side, it does mean that we are kind of tied into advanced custom fields for some of these features. If you want to use something like Metabox or something like that, you're going to have to rely on their own features. So it's not going to be supported directly inside here like you can see what we do with ACF. So just bear that in mind. But there's an awful lot of features inside here. Now, continue on to take a look at the interface. You can see, again, we've got the Cwicly logo in the top left. And if we open this up, this is where we can find out our templates. So things like our section templates, layouts, themes, elements, and so on. And as you can see, there's an awful lot of different options categorized down here on the left-hand side. For me, I'm not that excited about these. I've said right back in December that I didn't think the designs were particularly inspiring, but they could be more than enough to get you up and running with some of the key things that you may want to do, and then you can customize those to your heart's content. But if you want the sort of starting points, you do have sections, you have layouts, which are sort of full pages, grouped together so they make up full sites. And themes, for example, you can see again, these are overall theme designs. And finally, you've got your elements, which is the various different element components like accordions and so on. So these are made up of various different pieces that you can design and build inside Cwicly itself. So if you kind of take your probably preconceived ideas of working with a tool like Elementor or most page builders, when you want to drop an accordion in, you just basically drag and drop that, and then you have some options available to you. Cwicly works in a different way. You have all the component pieces, and then you can combine those in pretty much an infinite level and create your own custom accordions, your custom tab groups, and so on. And this is something that I know their latest update, which I think is 1.17, which has just come out, they've expanded how you can do this with tabs and accordions and so on to make it even more powerful, but also considerably easier. Okay, so let's close this down. Let's now go ahead and just insert something. We'll insert a section. You can see now when we insert the section, if we take a look, we've got the normal kind of pop-up menu option or icon option. or toolbar, whatever you want to kind of call it, which gives us a range of different things. Now, this is kind of a hybrid of your normal Gutenberg and also the Cwicly editor. So you'll find there's various different things inside here that are specific to the Cwicly editor and some which are general to Gutenberg itself. But you can see we can do things like we can go to the link copied blocks, which is one of those things that this is one of the really powerful features. You can actually link blocks together. So going back to that accordion or tabs, you can actually link things to the buttons that switch the accordion or switch the tabs over, and you can connect various different parts together to combine them together, like Lego for Gutenberg, as it were. These are some of the more powerful features. You can do things like copy and paste styles, which is always good to see. You can save this or add this to a collection. So once you've created something, whether it's a header, a hero, or something more complex, you can then go ahead, add that to a collection, kind of saving it to your favorites and call that back up whenever you want. You've got the remove block, and finally you've got the normal options for hiding and showing your settings, copy and duplicating and so on. Standard Gutenberg stuff. However, now we've got this selected and created. If we take a look on the right hand side, if you've seen this in my original video back in December, there was an awful lot more going on over this side. There were multiple different sections, multiple different sort of icons at the top for Cwicly for various different parts, and it kind of got confusing and you could very easily get lost in all the options you had. They've streamlined that considerably, and it, while still can be a little confusing to start off with, it is organized in a much more logical, much more streamlined fashion. And the interface itself now actually looks a lot more slick than I think it did originally. So kudos for doing that. But as you can see, you've got the option for your block, and you can see we've got the block inspector. We've got full control over creating custom classes, naming our custom classes. So if you're coming from a tool like Oxygen and you like the ability to work with your block IDs, to work with your classes and add in additional classes to make sweeping changes across your overall designs, this is pretty much fully supported inside Cwicly. You can see every time you add a new element or new widget or new block in, you're going to get an automatically generated class for it and an automatically generated ID. However, you can simply override those by clicking inside there, changing the name, whatever you want. And you'll see any classes that you have, whether they're additional classes or global classes, will be listed and available underneath. So you can see if we open this up, all the classes for this particular copy of Cwicly, this particular website, will be listed inside there, and the same then for any global classes. And you can easily just click to create a global class, and then you have all the options then for saving it, for copying and pasting it, for all the different options for how you want to set that class up. So you have a lot of options inside there for working with global classes inside your style sheets. Let's come back to our block inspector. You can see we've got options then for setting what kind of tag we want to associate with it. So if this is a hero section or a header or navigation, you can use the relevant tags inside there. And then coming down a little further, you can see we've got the normal kinds of things for styling, so your colors, for your text, links and background. You can click to open the options up to create gradients if you want to. And again, the interface is actually now considerably nicer to work with. These are broken down then into separate tab sections. We've got layout options, and you can see we've got full control over Flexbox. Flexbox is supported and CSS Grid is supported inside Cwicly, so whatever you like working with, you pretty much have support for that inside Cwicly itself. Again, whether you want to keep it really simple and just go with a Flexbox model, that's kind of standard, but if you want to get a lot more creative and use some of those extra kinds of features you may have with CSS Grid, you can use that inside Cwicly as well. All the options then for how you want your Flexbox to be displayed, the Flex Start, all those kinds of things, they're all available inside here. You've also got the options then to control how various different parts work in different pseudo classes. So for example, your normal state, then you've got your hover, your active, your focus, and before and after. So this is great when you want to set up styling for your navigation, for links and things like that. But also if you want to get a lot more in depth with it, you can set up pretty much all different kinds of styling based upon any of those pseudo classes. You've got your typography options, and again, tons of options. You can enable and disable Google fonts. So you'll see at the moment, if I open this up, it'll show me all the Google fonts. However, if I click on this, disable it, now only fonts that are actually installed will be listed inside here. And finally, if we take a look at the options for spacing, you can see there's options inside here for padding, margins, and so on. We can link things together. We can use scrubbers. Are you listening, Elementor? They haven't made a massive fuss about having scrubbers inside here. Enough said. So you can see we can easily set things up like applying our padding and margins to our section. We can set minimum heights, maximum heights, all those kinds of things. And you see we've got options then for the show and hide condition. So like I said, there's a really robust set of options for conditional logic. So again, we've got the very similar kind of setup. We can go ahead and we can set up our conditions, our operators, the data we want to reference, stack these on top of each other, and or we can use hiding this block for logged in users, hiding it for guests. We can simply enable or disable these features by clicking on this little circle on the left hand side. You've got massive amounts of options inside here. Close that down. You can see if we come over, we've got options then for interaction. So if you are coming over from something like Webflow, you have not to the same level or extent that you have there, but you can see we can do things like on click, something's going to happen, and you can see we can set the target, whether it's a current or a selector. We can set up custom values. We can set up the delays or reset things. We can edit things. You know, there's an abundance of different options inside here, so you can create custom interactions should you want to. And this is just on a section. So you can imagine once you get into this, there's going to be massive amounts of options. And bearing in mind, this is just the primary set of options. If we jump over into advanced, we now get even more options. So we can adjust things like the background colors, the overlays. Again, you can see we can work on the pseudo classes. We can work with various different colors, global colors, or we can assign colors on an individual element basis. Clipping paths, choosing whether it's a video or an image. Your typography, full typography options. Your layout options. So you can see you've got your flex options inside here. Sizing, padding, margins, animations on scroll. Just a crazy amount of options inside here, and that, like I say, that's whatever sort of block you choose, you're going to get an abundance of options. We've also got global styles, so we can set up our global styles for colors, typography, for global theming, your elements. You've got settings, you can export, you can have dynamic preview, you can set up multiple different styles and switch between them inside here. Again, you've got your save and you've got your copy and so on. You've also got global classes and styles inside here. So again, like I say, you can open this up. You can create your own custom classes and styles. You've got global style sheets. We can go ahead and create any kind of global style we want and then assign that wherever we want to, and then come back in here and easily change things. Like I say, if you're an Oxygen user and you like this way of working, which I'm pretty sure you probably do, this is incredibly powerful. Okay, and then finally you've got your collection, which is where when you save something and you sort of reuse it, going over to the options over here where you can say add to a collection, you can see they'll be listed inside here with a preview of exactly what it's going to look like. So very quick and easy to work with from that respect. Now, one other thing I like about working with Cwicly and what makes it feel, again, more like a page builder is that it has got its own integrated way of working with the content layout. Normally, you've got the option, which is a kind of list view that you get as part of Gutenberg, and that's getting better. It's not perfect, but it is getting better. You can drag and drop things around and so on. However, if we come over to the very last option, the top bar, and click on there, you can see we get the default Cwicly nav bar, or nav column, I should say, or Navigator, whatever you want to call it. Let's say we want to dock this to the left-hand side and we want to drag it out. You can see this now shows us a hierarchy of exactly what this looks like. Now, at the moment, this is relatively simple because obviously there's only one kind of block inside here. But as things get more complex, this is so much more powerful than the normal default way of working inside Gutenberg itself. You can right click, and inside here you can see we've got all the normal things like you want to copy it linked or unlinked. You can see we've got duplicate and delete. Our styles are available, so we can copy, paste, or paste global inside there as well. Our IDs and classes are listed inside here, and we can simply click on this to copy that if we want to reference that somewhere else. We want to link various different parts of our design together. Same thing goes for the classes. We can also insert pretty much any of the blocks that we have as part of Cwicly directly from inside here, and we can do things like wrap this inside sections, divs, and so on. Again, it's so well thought out now compared to what it was 6 to 7 months ago. It's like a completely different product. Now, I've opened up a different page that I've been working on because I want to demonstrate. First of all, I want to show you the nav and how that actually looks a lot better when we have a more complex design set up. So you can see this shows us our sections. We've got queries, query templates. Inside there, then we've got the template that's being used for this loop builder, which again is all integrated into Cwicly itself. And then you can see that breaks it down to the various different components, and that then is used to replicate all the other sections. Now, I've covered the query builder, which is incredibly powerful, in its own separate video that I released a couple of weeks ago. I will link that in the description because I don't want to get into that again today because that deserved a video in its own right. So check that out. But let me just quickly show you just how powerful it can be. We select the query from the left-hand side inside the Navigator. We come over to the primary section, making sure that the inherit query from URL is not enabled. If it is, you can see it goes blue, and then we lose the option to actually edit the query. So make sure we disable that, and that opens up the query editor option. Let's open the query editor, and you can see inside here we have an abundance of options. We can choose where and how we want to query things, so post, term, users, comments, and so on. You can then choose what post type or post types you want to use. So if you have multiple post types, you can actually access those inside here. You can see we can exclude current, we can include posts, exclude posts, we can order by, we've got pagination options, we can filter things by the author, we can search on things, MIME types, comments, permissions, status, passwords, taxonomy queries, meta queries, date queries, or even come in and grab the code that's generated from the query builder itself. It is insanely powerful. And as I said in my previous video, if you've come from a query builder like that we have in Jet Engine, this is going to feel very familiar because it operates in a relatively similar fashion. But you can see there are an awful lot of options inside here for exactly how and where you want to set up your queries, your filters, and those kinds of things. So really, really powerful to see that. Now, let me just go back over to one thing before I wrap this video up, before it gets sort of way too long. If we come over, you remember I said that we can actually use both the CSS grid and we can use Flexbox. Let me just show you something I think is really powerful when it comes to CSS grid. Now, parts of this template are using the actual CSS grid itself. So I'm going to choose the query template, and you'll see when we come over, it says display grid. So if we come over to the grid editor on the right hand side and open that up, this now shows us a visual representation of the actual grid that we're working with. Now, if you look in the background, you can see currently we have 3 columns, and that's represented down by here. You can also see we've got fractions. We can increase or decrease this. So you can see we can change that, and that will adjust the way the grid is represented. We'll leave that back at 3. You can also then go ahead and set up minimum height, row gaps, column gaps, and so on. So for example, if we remove this 3rd column, you can see in the background now, that changes things. So our grid now is just 2 across. However, if we go ahead and add another module in, that'll bring the 3rd one back, and we can then go ahead and customize this and do a lot more with it. And that's just really the basics of what you can do. But having a visual way of visualizing the overall grid can be considerably easier to work with. And again, that's one of those things that I think Cwicly have definitely gone back, taken a look at how they can streamline the whole experience for something that is ultimately a very complex tool. So they're doing a really good job. Yes, there's still room for improvement, but I think this is night and day in comparison to what they started off with back in December. So there's one final thing I want to quickly show you, and that is if we take a look at the top, we've got the normal options on the left-hand side that's just default Gutenberg, and pretty much the same on the right-hand side with the exception of the Navigator and the Cwicly sort of panel for the global styles. If we take a look at the middle, you can see we've got the ability to switch between the different responsive modes. We can choose the various different pseudo states, so you can see how things are going to be set up for your navigation and so on, so you can check that out. You can easily come inside here and you can just click and you can name the page that you're currently working on. You can see we can set up the width, the scale, and various other things for how you want to view the overall editor experience. And that's pretty much what I wanted to cover in this video. I just wanted to go back over what I covered in the first video, which is linked down below, but just to take a look at how much Cwicly has actually moved on. And I think this is very much a night and day tool from what it was originally. This is one of those tools that I think there's already a buzz around the Gutenberg WordPress page builder community, but I do think it's criminally unknown when it comes to Cwicly. I think originally, with what happened on AppSumo, that kind of rubbed a few people up the wrong way. They didn't know what was going on. They had a bit of a negative spin on Cwicly itself. However, taking that all out of the equation, this is becoming the closest thing to a page builder, theme builder, site builder, whatever you want to call it. And I think if you are an Oxygen user looking for a more block-based way of working and you like the look of this, I think you're probably going to find pretty much almost everything you probably want from Oxygen, and maybe some things you didn't even think you needed. Check out Cwicly for yourself. I'm excited about this, and I know a lot of other people are excited as well. Now, if you want to learn more about Cwicly, I would recommend taking a look and subscribing on the Cwicly YouTube channel. I would also recommend checking out the WebTNG YouTube channel, David McCann's channel, because he's done a couple of videos on getting started with Cwicly, because I think he's also pretty excited about what Cwicly is doing. So check out those two channels if you want to find out more and be kept up to date with how to start working with Cwicly itself. But as always, I want to pass this over to you. What are your thoughts? Have you looked at Cwicly? Do you use it? Are you kind of excited about it? A bit of indifferent about it? Has this made you kind of want to go and take a look at it for yourself? Let me know in the comment section down below. As always, my name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.